For today's main topic, we're going to be going through the Lifehacker article 10 Things You Should Almost Always Buy Used. The subtitle on this article reads, "We tend to think that buying something new is always the best option, but sometimes it really doesn't make any difference." I'd actually argue that sometimes buying used can make a big difference and help you achieve an optimal, hope-filled frugality. You'll see that this article was written by Jeff Summers in 2023. I found this article actually around November of 2023, so I've been sitting on it for about a year so I could share it now that it's December and we're getting ready to make some big purchases for Christmas. Let's go ahead and dive in. The introduction of the article reads, "Most of us have been trained over our lives to generally prefer new things over the old and busted. And in many cases, buying new makes sense. New things sometimes last longer, have modern features, and often come with warranties or service plans that make keeping them in good shape easier. Plus, they don't have someone else's greasy fingerprints all over them. But as budgets shrink and inflation rises, and as we all become more aware of the costs of living a disposable lifestyle, some of that used stuff starts to look better and better. The good news is there are actually a lot of things you can not only buy used, but probably should buy used. With these particular items, you can save money and make smarter decisions without sacrificing much, if anything, in terms of use or aesthetics. Here are the things you should almost always buy used, even if you can afford to buy new." I think this is a great introduction to the article, and I'm excited to share these top 10 items. Item number 1, in my opinion, is a no-brainer: houses. This one shouldn't be a surprise. The huge majority of home sales in this country are for existing homes. Buying an existing home as opposed to having one built or buying a newly constructed one usually doesn't cost you much in terms of features, as long as you look for a home that's been maintained and updated well. Existing homes are also proof of concept, as they've been around for a while without any major failures or problems, or have had those failures and problems fixed by previous owners. Bottom line, an existing home will almost always be more affordable, often with almost no trade-off in terms of quality or usability. I agree, most of us should be considering used homes when we are in the real estate market. However, it is my dream to one day build a dream home, something that is unique, something I cannot find used. And I'm only going to engage with this dream idea of building a home if I can prove that it is indeed a hope-filled, frugal purchase. As this article does have a point, buying a used home can be more affordable, more cost-effective than building the equivalent one brand new. Let's move into item number 2, and that's going to be clothes. Unless being on the cutting edge of fashion and trends is important to you, buying new clothes doesn't get you much in terms of added value. High quality clothing that's been properly cared for can last for decades and can be purchased at a steep discount. And a robust high-end fashion secondhand market has sprung up in recent years. This is the part where I typically give the disclaimer, don't click there. I haven't vetted out these markets, but I will read the article word for word. Just know that I'm not being sponsored by Lifehacker or any of these sponsored inserts here within this article. I'm sharing them for your educational purposes only. Head over to places like Poshmark or ThredUp to stay on trend without shilling out for a meaningless sense of newness. For more basic, everyday items, consignment stores and thrift stores abound. And I'm going to say it's more than just basic items that you can turn to the thrift store for. Most of my wardrobe I found at thrift stores. I found this shirt at thrift stores. A lot of the other clothes items that I have that were new were gifts or items that made sense to buy new, like shoes. I wouldn't ever buy used shoes. I go through shoes like crazy. And it makes me sad that the shoe market has become such a disposable one as opposed to buying nice shoes that can last for years. My shoes, I'm lucky if my shoes last 6 months. I'm very hard on shoes. And as far as thrift stores go, I've got a pro tip. You can go to really ritzy areas that are near you. For example, Overland Park's not too far from me, and a lot of the wealthier people who live in and around Overland Park will donate items that are brand new or barely used to the thrift store. I used to live in Colorado, and Aspen was the ritzy area that was pretty close to where we were, and they had some good thrift stores. I popped in there, and got a name brand suit that fit me perfectly with tags for pennies on the dollar compared to what it would have been brand new. Can't recommend thrift store shopping enough. Let's move on to the third item that you should almost always buy used, and that's going to be jewelry. Well, jewelry can break down and need repair. Generally speaking, it's among some of the most durable luxury items that you can buy. This means that no matter how old or well loved a ring, necklace, or bracelet might be, it's going to be pretty much in the same condition as it was when it was first sold, and almost instantly because of criminally high markups at the store. If this is an item that throws a question mark up for you because you think jewelry is something that always has to be purchased new, go ahead and Google what the most marked up items are for the common everyday consumer. Jewelry is marked up massively at the retail. As an aside, I love that this article says that a jeweler can refurbish a ring, a necklace, or a bracelet to like new condition. If you've never seen it before on YouTube or TikTok or wherever you watch video content, there are some awesome jewelers who have little refurb videos for various rings and pieces of jewelry that get brought into them, and they do make them look brand spanking new. And if you're still on the fence about considering used jewelry, maybe go somewhere in the middle. When I was working on Amanda's engagement ring, I have a whole episode about that. I wanted to custom design something so she'd have a one-of-a-kind ring. I purchased each component of the ring, the trillions, the center diamond, and the setting itself from separate sources at wholesale value, then paid a jeweler to put it all together. And if I remember doing the math right, I was able to get her engagement ring, her wedding ring, for half the cost of what it appraised for after it was all put together. Let's move on to the fourth item, books. Print books continue to sell despite the inroads of digital media, and thank goodness. But as much as you love cracking open a new book, the newness isn't really necessary. Buying your books used drops the price dramatically without any degradation of the reading experience. And I'm going to just throw it out there that you do not need to own every book that you ever want to read. The library is a stellar resource to find basically anything that you could be looking for. For those books that you do want to own, the books that you want to keep on the shelf and read over and over again or be able to lend out to a friend, I have found so many inexpensive books for $1, $2, maybe no more than $5 at the thrift store. And I'm going to say that thrift stores might be a way to limit your selection to some books that you might not otherwise consider buying to read and can really widen your experience with reading. Let's move on to item number 5, and that's going to be weights, like workout weights. Well, some folks might advise you to buy all exercise equipment used because A, people buy these machines and never use them, making the used models like in new condition, and B, these machines are built to take a lot of punishment and therefore last like a long time. Buying stuff like treadmills, elliptical machines used can be a little risky. And I want to point out here, since the article brings up risk, a hope-filled frugal exercise in purchasing exercise equipment can easily exclude ellipticals and treadmills from the used market because we are exercising the intentional practice of prudent economy. Prudence being the exercise to not expose us to undue risk. It's making a wise purchase that doesn't put our health or safety at undue risk. Unlike cars, there's no robust infrastructure for exercise equipment repair, and you might not want something that's absorbed months or years of someone else's use here. But free weights is a whole other category. Quality weights are going to be as well heavy as the day they were bought, no matter how long someone else has used them, and they're easily sanitized. If you can save money buying your weights used, there's literally no reason not to. Now I'm curious how well used weights actually hold their value and if pound for pound they depreciate less than anything else. I don't know, but that's a good question. Let's move on to item number 6 now, and that's going to be furniture, just like from the story. High quality wood and metal furniture is expensive. Tell me about it. But it can last for decades unless abused. Upholstered furniture like couches or chairs might be suspect because you never know what's lurking inside. But furniture that doesn't involve fabric is going to be just as useful and attractive used as it was new, as long as it was properly cared for in the first place. This reminds me that when we were looking for couches to furnish our home, we did buy a couch and love seat that were matching from one person here in Kansas City, but the apartment had been smoked in. And I didn't know when we first got there because everything kind of smelled funky, how bad the couches smelled by the time we got them home. So we put them on the market and we sold them. And oddly enough, that same day that I had the U-Haul, somebody was trying to buy the smoky couch and love seat from us. They were in our garage so that they weren't stinking up the house. I was able to put them in the trailer and take them to the buyer who wasn't able to find a U-Haul or a truck to borrow to pick them up. They were very grateful. They smoked. They didn't care that the couches smelled like smoke. They were very happy to have a nice couch and love seat. It was a good upgrade for them. Let's move on to item number 7. That's going to be hand tools. Quality hand tools like hammers, pliers, or screwdrivers can last for decades and remain just as effective as the day they were made. Well, buying power tools used comes with a degree of hidden risk because it's difficult to know whether or not a motor, power supply, or other moving part is going to crap out on you. A hammer is a pretty solid and easy to inspect object. If you need to bulk up your toolbox, you don't have to buy everything brand new. Buying tools used is an easy way to save a few pennies without taking on any serious risk. Back when we moved, Amanda and I did some furniture hunting at a restore, and as we were walking through, we found a huge box that was just full of wrenches. They looked like they were brand new, and each one cost less than $1. It was a massive box. There was no way I would have even been able to push it to scooch it around the floor. But I can't argue at this point, and I think it's a great item to include in this list. All right, item number 8. This one's a little bit controversial. Cars. It's a simple fact. Buying a new car is a fool's game. The article's words, not mine. Yes, new cars come with all the latest technology and features, plus bragging rights. But a relatively recent used car that's been maintained well is always a better buy in terms of depreciation. And these days, most used cars, especially ones offered as certified pre-owned through dealers, are as reliable as new models. Chances are you'll own the used car just as long as the new one and get the same level of service from it. I've got a couple arguments against the points here in the article. One would be you're probably not actually going to drive it as long as you would a new car if you're the kind of person who wants to drive the wheels off of something. This is especially true if you buy a used car that was up there with the mileage because it's what you could afford. I will give the article props when it comes to the depreciation point. You see, a car loses most of its value in the first 3-4 years. Its fastest rate of depreciation is right when you buy it new off the lot. The blump blump that the car makes going out of the lot is the most expensive sound you're going to hear that car make, hopefully. And I want to make a comment when it comes to the article's claim on reliability. Because here's the thing. A used car that's 4 years old has 4 years of history behind it. 4 years of other people driving the vehicle to see if it is actually genuinely a reliable vehicle or a lemon. Lemons at some point were brand new too. You can buy a brand new car thinking that it is the safest and most reliable thing, but you don't have any information behind this to say that it is actually reliable. That's something that you can only get buying something that's used. As a very quick aside, this is carcomplaints.com. They don't sponsor my show, but I love this website because on here you can go and find any vehicle that's used and look for very commonly reported problems with it. This means that you can not only try to figure out the reliability of the vehicle, but you can also, if you're considering purchasing a specific make and model, say, oh, this commonly has X issue. I should inspect for that more than anything else. Let me show you a couple things about this website. You can click on best vehicles and see the most reliable ones. You can also see the worst vehicles, the ones that you want to avoid. If you click best vehicles, they break down by make all the models that they say are absolutely awesome. I'm just going to go ahead here and pick a 2003 Toyota 4Runner, and you'll see that carcomplaints.com says this has our seal of awesome. And while we're talking about this website, I want to show you something that I wish I would have known. You see, one of my first cars that I ever drove in college was a Volkswagen Passat. It was a 2002 Volkswagen Passat. So if we go to their browser here, select vehicle, you'll see that the Passat has the second most problems of all VWs in general, only second to the Jetta. And if we go in here, we have a list of all the different years. You can see that the 2013, has more problems than the 2014 and the 2012. If we scroll over, we can find the 2002. Well, 2002 isn't the worst one, but 2003 would have been a lot worse. If we click on 2002, it gets a stamp that says avoid like the plague on the website, mostly due to engine issues. And if we click into the engine issues, the number one most reported problem was oil sludge, resulting in engine failure. Believe it or not, I got rid of my 2002 Volkswagen Passat because it was starting to develop an oil sludge issue. Please, if you buy used cars, I highly recommend that you do your research, and I do personally believe that carcomplaints.com is a wonderful place to start. At the very least, buying a used car helps you better understand what you're getting. You know that you're getting into a lemon before you get into a lemon if you do your research. And you know you're likely getting behind the wheel of a reliable car that you can depend on more so than you could if it were new. All right, we only have 2 more items to get through in the article. Item number 9, CDs and DVDs. If you're still clinging to legacy media and resisting the world of invisible streams and cloud storage, like me, you know better than anyone, CDs and DVDs are durable storage formats. In fact, most optic discs will last several decades without any problems as long as they're stored properly and handled carefully, i.e., not handed to your toddler who just had a cookie. Buying them used saves a huge amount of money, and a visual inspection for scratches is probably all you need to do to ensure you get your money's worth. Oddly enough, we recently had our neighborhood garage sale here, and one of the sales that we stopped by had a couple boxes of DVDs. I went through and found some of my old favorites that I don't have access through any streaming service to watch. They were movies from my childhood that I want my kids to be able to see. And I want them to be able to watch them here with me and not just when we go visit grandma and grandpa. So I thought, hey, I could buy these. I was able to look at the CDs and inspect for scratches in general. One of them, at the very least, I think it was Over the Hedge, had some scratches on it. But I got a whole stack of them. And I said, how much do you want for them? And they said, $1 each. And I said, I got to think about my budget here. I'm trying to get the movies that I appreciated from my childhood so I could share them with my kiddos. I've got 2 sons as they're growing up. And the lady who's doing the garage sale says, all right, 50 cents each. And at that point, I picked out a few extras, even though they might not work, because for 50 cents each, I mean, that was a good deal. Again, I got like 10 to 12 movies that day for what felt like nothing. Let's move on to the 10th and final item, dishes. It might seem weird to eat off someone else's plate, but that's exactly what we do at restaurants all the time. Good point. Dishes in place settings are easy to sanitize, and if they're in good shape, used ones perform exactly the same as new. There also aren't any real concerns with trends or fashion here because plates, cups, forks, and spoons haven't changed all that much over the years. This is definitely an example of something where buying new doesn't get you much. And to this point, when I was on internships, I went to the thrift store and bought a lot of my dishes, silverware, cups, and stuff from there. There were some items that were in good shape. I have purchased a couple plates from Walmart, but they were $1 or less each. This was a few years ago. Since then, when I first graduated from college and I was getting my full kitchen set up, I ended up going to the thrift store to not only buy additional dishes for place setting, but I also bought a lot of my kitchen tools, pots, pans, and alike that were in good shape from a thrift store. And to the article's point about dishes not going out of fashion, old, classic, heirloom china sets are always going to be a nice resource for you to have if you host parties. My grandmother, when she passed away, had a wide number of china sets, and I was blessed to actually inherit one of them. It's the china set that we use every year for big holiday meals like Thanksgiving or Christmas if we ever host the family here, which has happened for both holidays. By the way, a couple weeks ago I didn't say happy Thanksgiving, so happy belated Thanksgiving, and I hope that the holidays aren't stressing you out too much. Hang in there, you got this, and until next week, until next Tuesday, budget bravely and enjoy your hope-filled financial future.